Fellas, UFC 296 just happened, and all I've got to say is that was a crazy card. The prelims, I'm just gonna quickly scoot over the prelims. They were pretty exciting. We had Cody Garbrandt getting a knockout. That was one of the best female fights I've seen in probably ages on that card as well. There was a couple other finishes on the card as well. It was a pretty decent set of prelims. A lot of finishes. I'm pretty sure there was only 1 or 2 decisions on the entire prelim card, and one of them was the absolute wall that the women had. So the prelims were good. And next thing I'm going to say is my predictions were on point. My predictions are always on point, but especially for this card. And we're going to go in there with the first fight on the main card, which was Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. Absolutely banger of a knockout. What a brutal knockout by Josh Emmett. I've never seen... It has been a long while since I've seen a knockout that brutal. I mean, what are we talking about? Chandler Ferguson? He was twitching on the ground with Bryce Mitchell. He looked like... I don't think Bryce Mitchell was going to be able to fight for another at least half a year. That was so brutal. He's 100% concussed. He's definitely not going to be able to fight for a while, which is a shame because he was starting to pick up a bit of momentum. Then he comes in on short notice just to get slept. Yeah, I predicted Josh Emmett to get a first-round knockout. That's exactly what he did. I knew that the overhand could land, and I thought Bryce Mitchell, I don't think he's a decorated striker to be able to avoid that overhand. Prediction was spot on, but the thing about Josh Emmett is I feel like if you can kind of counter the overhand, if you can survive and get away from the overhand right, you're safe. He's not really got anything else to offer. We saw it with Ilia Topuria when he picked him apart. We've seen it before against Yair Rodriguez. If he doesn't land that overhand, there's nothing else he's really got going for him, but... That's a big if because it's an extremely dangerous... He is the hardest hitter at 145. You've got to admit it. Terrifying overhand right, though, if it does land. Extremely brutal knockout, man. That's just all I'm going to say. It was a brutal, brutal knockout. I don't know what's next for Josh Emmett. I'd probably match him up against the loser of Movsar Evloev and Arnold Allen because I feel like that can easily get him back in the mix at featherweight, you know, get him back in the top 5 area because he is on a 2-fight losing streak, one of them by finish. Or were they both by finish? No, the Topuria one wasn't by finish, right? Was it? No, I don't think it was. But obviously the Yair Rodriguez one was. Yeah, brutal knockout. I feel for Bryce Mitchell a little bit, and I don't think that would have happened to Giga Chikadze. Like I said, I think he's a more decorated striker than Mitchell, but yeah, we're just going to move on to the next fight because that was brutal. And the next fight happened to be Tony Ferguson and Paddy Pimblett. Lads, Tony Ferguson couldn't do anything. I was fucking dominating him. They called me the new Habib, lad. You fucking sausage. Tony Ferguson, he kind of got dominated by Pimblett there. You've got to feel for Ferguson, man, because I was one of the few people to predict him. This is the only pick that kind of messed up my prediction, Ferguson. Fuck you, man. I'm joking. No, but my prediction was that Ferguson was going to get a TKO in the round 3. I thought he'd be able to finish Paddy with ground and pound. And to be honest, off his back, Tony Ferguson was dangerous. And I actually thought he was going to be able to finish Paddy Pimblett in the 3rd round because I don't know if it was just because he had this absolutely grueling grappling style, but he looked really, really, he looked like he'd been drained in the 3rd round. He looked like he had nothing left. There was a point where I actually thought Ferguson was going to be able to piece him up and get the win. Obviously, Paddy then took him down and dominated him. Fair play to Paddy. Listen, you can say what you want about him, but there was a time not long ago where people were saying Paddy wouldn't even be able to touch the top 15. He wouldn't be able to touch the top 20. And he has just beaten Ferguson. Granted, it is the worst form of Ferguson, the 7-fight losing streak one, but still... I think this is where we need to start matching Paddy up against proper ranked contenders. Not top 10 though, because I feel like everyone in top 10 would smoke him right now. Another critique about Paddy. What is it about him keeping his chin up? It has happened in every single one of his fights. Whenever he gets in exchanges, he keeps his chin wide open. And I thought after like his 2nd UFC fight against Vargas that he would have been able to correct that. Even after the Jared Gordon fight, he's been out for over a year. He's still not corrected it. I don't know why he keeps his chin open so much, but I don't know. I don't know why he does it all a lot. He needs to tuck his chin. He's going to get caught by a proper lightweight at one point like Bobby Green. And his stamina, like I said, it could have just been because he had an absolutely grueling style against Ferguson. I do think he should have finished him in the 1st round. I wasn't really impressed how he couldn't finish him. He had multiple ways as well. He had the submissions. He had the ground and pound. But maybe Ferguson was just... Maybe that's where Ferguson was durable. I don't know. But yeah, it was just a depressing way for Ferguson to lose. He needs to retire now. We've been saying it for the past 3 fights. Tony Ferguson needs to retire. Just been dominated by Pimblett. There's nothing left for him. The only fights that make sense for Ferguson is some unranked guy who nobody's ever heard of, which he could still get finished by. And no one wants to see that. Just retire, get it out of the way, go right off into the sunset. You've lost to Paddy Pimblett, got dominated by Pimblett. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that fight. Let me know your thoughts on it. Next fight. Shavkat versus Stephen Thompson. My prediction was that Shavkat was going to get a submission in the 2nd round. The result was that Shavkat got a submission in the 2nd round. It was quite a boring start, I'm going to be honest. It was a lot of Shavkat kind of just holding Stephen Thompson against the cage. Wasn't the most exciting to watch. One thing I will say about Stephen Thompson, though, is he definitely improved his takedown defense. He's got really solid takedown defense. I thought when they had the first grappling exchange that Shavkat would have been able to take him down and kind of find the submission from there. Because whenever Shavkat has you in his, has you on the ground, and whenever he's got controlling you, 10 times out of 10 he's going to find the submission. I mean, he's got 18 finishes, 18 wins, undefeated as well. But Stephen definitely showed some decent takedown defense. In terms of Shavkat, he's an absolute monster, man. He's a monster, and he's a big threat to Leon Edwards because obviously Leon just beat Colby. We'll talk about that fight in a minute, but he's a big threat to Leon Edwards. But again, his striking lacks. I've not been impressed by his striking at all in pretty much any of his fights. He's not really impressed me with anything. His head movement's still kind of, he's still getting caught a little bit by Leon. I guess he throws a leg kick here and there, but I wasn't necessarily impressed by his striking. And I feel like if he was to go against someone who can kind of counter his grappling and keep it on the feet, that's the kind of fight that Shavkat will struggle with. So I think he should take some time off, wait for Leon Edwards versus Belal, fight the winner, improve his striking in the meantime, and then come back strong. And in terms of Stephen Thompson, I think he should kind of just... I think the UFC should pick him up, put him in the storage box, and take him out whenever take Stephen Thompson out whenever they want to have entertaining fights, because that's what he should be there for. I don't think we should keep putting Stephen Thompson against killers. I think now we're just leaving for fun fights like the Kevin Holland fight and even the Michelle Pereira fight. I still think that would have been sick. But good win for Shavkat. Another finish, another submission in the second round against a guy that's never been submitted in the UFC previous to that. So fair play to Shavkat. And yeah, he needs a title shot next. There's nothing else to prove. Give him a title shot. Next fight, Pantoja versus Royval. Yeah, it was a kind of a perfect mix of grappling and striking. I feel like on the striking department, Brandon Royval was definitely winning, especially in the later rounds. Pantoja looked very, I don't know, he also looked quite gassed. But yeah, Brandon Royval definitely turned it up in the 5th round. And I like Brandon Royval so much, man. He might actually be my new favourite flyweight. I just feel like he's got this really interesting style. He's a really clean boxer, really crisp, striker. Pantoja, I like him as well. Pantoja, one thing, listen, you can say he was boring, but one thing you've got to say is he was such a dominant grappler. He's so dominant. He dominated, well, he out-grappled Moreno. He just dominated Brandon Royval on the grappling department. It wasn't even close. I'd kind of be intrigued. As much as I want Moreno to win, I'd be intrigued to see how Pantoja would do against Albazi when it comes to grappling, but yeah, Royval's my new favourite flyweight anyway. Decent fight by both of them. I was hoping that, it would stay on the feet in the 5th round because Pantoja was starting to wear away, but obviously, I think what was going on with the octagon in this fight? Because not even in the fight, in the event, there were so many times where people were slipping over. But I did expect more from Pantoja on the feet, though, to be fair. I thought, he's a hard hitter. I thought he'd be more willing to exchange with Brandon Royval. Even though Brandon Royval's a really good technical boxer, I just thought he'd be more willing to exchange. But it was a decent fight overall. I'm not mad about Pantoja being the champion. I would say it was I was expecting a bit more of an entertaining fight. I was expecting it to be a back and forth war, but listen, I mean, Pantoja's game plan worked. He can't be mad at it. Decent fight. And finally, the main event, Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. It came back home. Leon Edwards is still the champion. First ever fighter from the UK to get a second defense. Colby's got to be embarrassed from that. And I'm not just talking about the fight, the post-fight press conference. The fans, all the Americans are there and you're calling him Brock. The guy's got no class about him. I don't want to see Colby Covington again. I genuinely couldn't give two shits about Covington now. Get him out. I don't care. Talking all that about Leon Edwards' dad, saying he's going to absolutely dominate him. What was that, Colby? And I'm not just trying to critique Colby as well. It was quite boring from Leon, but at the same time, it did work. Wasn't the most entertaining fight. I predicted Leon to get a decision win, and the result was a decision win. Same with Pantoja. But it was a slow-paced fight, but Leon outclassed Colby. Outclassed him on the feet. He was chewing up his leg, the body kicks, the head kicks, everything. Outboxing him as well. There were a few times where Colby did land on Leon Edwards, but that was only because of the threat of the takedown. And there was also a few times where Colby took him down, especially in the 5th round. And I don't know why he was celebrating as if he won after the fight. Like, well done, mate. You landed a takedown. That was supposed to be your game plan from round 1. Colby's not the same, man. Just give up. You've had 3 title fights. You failed them all. I don't like being harsh on these fighters, but Colby deserves it out of anyone. Leon outclassed him. Let's do Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad for a co-main event of an Aspinall main event, because no one wants to see that as a main event. Fair play to Leon. He's the best welterweight in the world right now. A-tier grappler, S-tier striker. And yeah, fair play to him. That's my thoughts on the card. Let me know your thoughts on the card. I feel like the prelims were definitely better than the main card. There are a few lackluster performances, but overall, I'd say it was a decent card, and I'd kind of categorise it as crazy. Let me know your thoughts on it, and thank you for watching.